you also pointed out on, it's actually Heat 1 Game 4 from the Middle East at the moment, which is a whole new slew of players that we're going to be seeing because we were watching Heat 2 previously, so we'll see how this Heat panned out, how the end games kind of differ. Before, we saw a lot of top-down shooting vertically, not many people challenging it late at all, a lot of miniguns, a lot of AR spam. Once that 7th zone kind of passed, it was free reign for those people on height. It's just about how many points can you efficiently accumulate. So now we'll see what are some of the other different type of win conditions, endgame Monster, that you've seen in Comp Fortnite.
Hey, I mean, the name of the game is to earn points regardless. You see squads that like to execute zone 6 for high ground and then dominate, right? Put pressure down, dictate the pace of the game. You see other players that tend to kind of hold mid-ground tarp, hold down on shockwaves, and then make big moves towards the tail end, try and secure high ground, right? All of which are risk and reward plays. Personally, I think the scariest type of play style is going for height early. Those players that have the guts to go for zone 6 high ground, you're risking all of your material at the expense of going for elims, which aren't guaranteed to you, and then you're trying to control the pace of the battle, which again, some people struggle, right, in those situations, because if you don't do it properly, the server will turn on you, and now all of a sudden, you're losing.
Yep, there's so many teams alive near the end of the game. There's always one that can sense the weakness on height. Oh, you're not double tarping anymore. You're metal switch to wood. Here's an opportunity. Where's the spam?
You're not hitting me. So like, now it's time to fire back and set up those countermeasures. And that's one of the kind of tug of wars that these teams and trios face. But here we have Siddig, MS Idij, and Rampage here, and looks like they are looking to battle here. So the team that we saw at Greasy here was already rotating out, and in comes the fire. So just exposing themselves, no fear at all, just fearless out in the open, using a little bit of ducking there, kind of trying to naturally avoid some shots here. The shield bubble comes down. Invoke is on a weird position here. Now P goes for the high ground right now, and that's a shockwave. He's going to leave his backside open. He's going to suffer all of his shield right there. It's going to be very painful.
Now, one big thing to notice in this breakdown is on approach, Rampage, Siddig, and M-Siddig all together were doing a 2-1 breakdown at all times. They always made sure there was one person a little bit higher, kind of switching roles to make sure they had that 2-1 split. And you see it in this fight. It's 2 people on a wall on one opponent. Then you have the breakdown of one person supporting up top. Right now, Rampage is in the big fray of the fight. Not sure exactly where his teammates are, but you can presume if he's on a wall, there is a teammate there to respond. Kimmy responds to the bullets by going absolutely knocked down in that state, and now going to be getting siphoned by his teammates. Now everyone grouping together. This is very good use of timing in the fight, because when you're split, you do have a lot of pressure, but there's a lot of risk involved. Now coming back together, if someone tries to peek you, you have 3 people aiming in. It's very good use of splits and regrouping.
Yeah, and something to learn from that battle, guys. If you notice how quickly it ended, is because they managed to just isolate. They isolated the player, they hunted him down, they forced him into a frenzy to build up for high ground, and that was the first pick. After that, the rest of the team just kind of fell in suit, trying to play catch-up to save their teammate. But we've seen a wonderful story of Minzu, Kinji, and Boxfighter Moon all day today. They had high ground. They took 2nd place in the first game we watched, in a crazy turnaround and some shockwave plays that were made towards endgame. But we know they've been making it to the end, and they weren't on our radar previous to this. So to see Minzu, Kinji, and Boxfighter Moon here finally making a little stake of the claim for fame here on the Fortnite competitive scene is really nice. This is one of the awesome things about being able to check out these new regions and give people opportunity.
No, absolutely. This is the breakthrough moment at the moment. We've seen them be really good early game in Happy, but now they have the worst possible zone rotating in. It looks like it's pulling all the way up to the right side of the map, so they will be having a mid-game fight. Very smart use of utility, making sure with Stinks you can actually track where your enemies are through that damage tick through the wall. Now you can see them actually responding after getting that first elim. This is what we're talking about earlier in the day. When you have a stink, it's not usually used to grief, but to gather info and then act upon afterwards. So now they're full body sending it straight into the box fight. As they're doing it, another 2 teams come up from the top. It's a huge mishmash at Grandma's house in the middle of the map. A lot of teams should be rotating through here. They might get even more action as Kinji goes down.
That's what I want to talk about. It was the aggression, the fearlessness. Moon actually jumps into a 1v3 battle for high ground build. He held it down, but unfortunately Kinji's going to get traded out here as Minzu was in the low ground trying to figure things out. And now suddenly, because they didn't, pull back the reins and play it patient here, they found themselves in another battle, but looks like these things are putting into great work as they catch another small pick there, and they managed to fend off everyone. So we'll see if they can get the reboot card, maybe pull out a clutch save at some point or another, but teams are in shambles here.
Absolutely. You touched upon it earlier where, we're happy to see these early games. And, in comparison to all the late games we always see, it's dope to cast a huge early to end game. One big thing that applies to both early and end game.
He's going in the zone, by the way.
Is timing. And this is a big use of timing right here, right? We do have a minute 14 till the zone moves. You do want to pick your teammate up, but now you're messing with not just one, but two resources. First of all, you're losing a lot of time and positioning on the zone, as well as HP pools coming in. You do have a lot of loot you did gain from the fight that these guys just had, and slurps to tick through, but the stuff you use early to pick yourself up, you will not be able to utilize in the end game. So time is shared across both early and end. It's both affected. We don't usually get to see it used at the end game, but every decision you make, maybe they wouldn't have had that mid-game fight if they were faster off their looting, right? So seeing exactly how they move across the map, how they utilize time, can actually get into where they are in the middle and end game of their gameplay.
Yeah, so they sent one player out to go kind of, obviously get that revive, and then they stood, or they left Moon back behind to, be that presence on the build on this skeleton that remains of what the fight was, so that the team below, is cautious. They don't necessarily, want to move or get that freebie rotation out of there. So the whole team is back. Now they're able to reap some of the rewards here of the loot that remains, and suddenly they're all back in action here. Now with that launch pad there, they are going to be okay to get the rotation, but remember, he did catch a knock, so notice, they just want to go ahead and take a peek. See who's left here. What kind of loot can they still kind of grab up before it's time to go? And it's a short rotation, so they don't need the launch pad either. Looks like they are going to decide to probably go on foot here.
Short rotation, definitely risky, though. There are 65 people alive right now in the circle. Placement is a long ways away. Looks like Xanxus might be the last person in the trio from this fight, or one of the trios trying to move in. We'll see if it's possible for him to actually sneak through on this launch pad. Very patient gameplay there. Hopefully he has heals to come in, but this is the big problem with missed timing and getting in the zone a little bit later than you want. KenGi getting absolutely lit up in the air, going to be launching down, might have to use hard mats early on, which means he won't have them end game. Once again, you see these connections between early and end. Usually you don't get to see why people are in such positions, but these guys took fights. They have to respond with the appropriate materials, and now they're actually turning gears to the offense. I think they noticed this guy was solo right here on the left. They do have a beam opportunity on the launch pad. Hopefully they get it. A lot of trees in the way, though, Monster. This is very interesting to see how these guys are kind of moving around the map to get in the zone mid-game.
Yeah, so far so good. Again, another little buff up to the loadout. When you get that minigun, suddenly now you have the means to put the pressure up. And TR Xanxus is going to fall there as they were relentless on the push. They hunt him down, they catch him down right there, and that's going to be a nice replenish for materials and loot of the sort. And they're big chilling right now. They have everything they need. Medium, light bullets. Mats are in a hurting because they're asking for attention from the server. But other than that, the points are accumulating. The steamroll's beginning here.
The biggest thing to worry about is that zone still pulling up northeast over and over again. It means they have to move more vertically. There's already a hill in the way. Moving up pressure, you have to deal with lava, ever-changing ultimate low ground as well. There's so many things to take into account, and now they actually do have to move towards that way. The whole server could hold them back. We'll see if they use their utility to push through.
And here, back with this team, we saw them earlier before execute a nice isolation and pinch push against a full trio. Looks like they're setting up their next siege here. You saw a couple shots trading out, and interesting middle, the ME region kind of surprising me here with how much they are using just everything in their arsenal to fully commit to these battles here. They're throwing stinkers, laying down fire, and then fully commit into rotations and box pushes here. So this is some aggressive play we're looking at, Shayo. And it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. This is the type of play style we kind of signed up for here. We checked out this region, setting up the ramp boost right there. He's going to catch the 50-50 wall, but doesn't matter. Eagle isn't even looking. So catches that guy off guard. Still pick right there.
I think the difference in this trio is that usually people look for weakness to apply stinks to. They make the map weak. They make other trios weak first. Then they're like, oh, okay, these guys are weak, we're pushing in. They know exactly what fight they want to take. They actually make fights happen rather than sitting back and waiting for them. Right now, looks like these guys have 4 elims together. They're still affecting trios left and right, either picking up strays or making trios have just stray teammates. We'll see how much of an influence they have on the rest of the game, because it looks like so far they've affected 5 different trios coming in from the bottom left side of the map.
Yeah, Rampage actually took a lot of damage there, as does MSI Dig as well. And that's because the heavy sniper from the opponents nearby, they're just popping open those builds, following up with heavy AR fire. That's why they're able to, unfortunately, that's why they lost a lot of health here. But now having to expend all their heals, it kind of seems like it wasn't worth it. The teams they've taken out didn't really reap big rewards here. Now they're in a weird situation, scrambling for health and loot, but it's okay. We're approaching Zone 5. It'll reveal itself in just 15 seconds, and then they'll have to make a big decision of whether they get to stay and kind of plan up, or move out and use those shockwaves.
The big thing about decisions is they're the easiest to make when you have a lot of options.
Yeah.
The fact that they've ran out of all this utility, all these shields, limits their options. So now they have to play a certain type of way. They have to either find recyclable launch pads. Yes, they have the shockwaves, but then if they use them now, they lose the option as them for a win condition later in the game. So everything's kind of all on the plate now. They don't have any side dish available, no dessert coming up. It's one main course. They have to make sure it stays tasty. Hopefully they get in, and it's an easy coming from them all the way to the later parts of the zone where they can utilize whatever utility they have left.
Yeah, and this is a long rotation here, guys. They actually did not look out. The zone is pushing further and further away. Lucky for them, you can see the server is proactive. They're moving first, which is good, because if everyone's on the move, it allows you to cut across the field. The teams up on high ground hopefully wouldn't have had their ARs loaded, but not the case here, as Rampage gets chipped right out. He gets taken down this no-fly zone here, and he lands right next to the team. He's unsure of what he wants to do. He's trying to stay close but not fall down to a layer where he cannot be saved. But it looks like that's it. That's it. His team split up. Rampage is out the game. Now it's just a duo that remains here. This MSI Dig and Sid Dig here, cooking up this minigun. This is a very precarious pressure point, so close to their opponents there. You can get punished in return with a shotgun. It's not going to be the case here, as they're just dictating the push here. Jib goes down. It's going to be a nice catch for them. He actually just finished that. It wasn't even his elim. So he's just trying to be really sneaky here, see if he can steal some of the rewards here from the down body. Little does he know, it's right over lava. It's probably not even retrievable.
Yeah, man, one big contingency off of coming off of a launch and losing your shield. It's a very risky, very, very risky play, is going towards another trio.
Yeah.
As you saw, they use another person's shield bubble because you attract all that heat. Maybe that trio doesn't want to deal with it. They're low on mats. They use their own resources, right? You turn 3-man's loot into 6-man's loot. The thing is, 3 of those people next to you are also not on your team. So as soon as they sense weakness, they turn right onto you. You saw that with Sadig here, who now has 6 HP, taking a whole minigun brawl from the trio that was closest to him, who was he was utilizing their shield bubble to kind of take protection from, but once that ran out, they knew exactly what was up. Now we're moving into that 6 circle off of half and half. 45 people left alive, 19 trios still there, 7 need to go down for placement.
Yeah, still a lot of trios left in the game here, and this is a really weird spot to battle, especially with the low health. You don't want to step in the lobby. You can't really afford to, and the elevation is only going to rise here as they go up and over the volcanic mountain. This is one of the steepest points in the world of the Fortnite world. This is similar to a polar peak climb here. It's a very steep wall you have to get up and over, and if they don't move soon, they're going to be stuck with their backs against the wall here. But you know what? It's more important, exactly, to try and pick up some Siphon here. So Sigil going down there is going to be huge. That's going to at least help Sid get some health here if he can kind of hold out. A launch pad's going to be placed down in Upsy Daisy. Now into the next zone they go, and great tracking of his teammate here. That's actually a phenomenal job, even under the pressure and the circumstances that they found themselves in. Great job tunneling and finding his teammate.
Yep, even off of height and mid-ground, you mentioned going through this weird zone that's very vertical. Height still has a tough job actually tarping in and making sure they can actually shoot down on people while they're moving around, because they have to change exactly how high they are. That's why you saw these guys not get beamed exactly where they were. You have such a dynamic placing of all the mid-ground layers as well, going up and down, changing layers based off of natural low ground, because if you're too high, that's a threat, right? You want to be in the perfect position. Now they're using shockwave nades. The biggest thing about these, though, is when you're using them endgame, you do take a tent tick every now and then. these guys only have about 60 to 70 HP to play with. So every one of these shockwaves must be perfect, and some could also be saved. Jiren actually going down for a huge Siphon Elim and mats that these guys did need. They were almost shambles. Now they're not. The last almost shockwave coming in from Sadiq, still taking ticks away from his teammate. Sadiq actually going down. Sadiq is the one up here. Another Elim on Fahad. He goes down. RPG available as well. Looks like Sadiq actually caught up with him in that mid ground there. Having mid ground over here is such a big deal as well, because you don't have to deal with any of the vertical pressure or low ground weirdness that goes on with the change of the map.
That's some interesting decision making right there. They split the shockwave, saying, you know what, we can't afford to make any errors, right? We can't even shockwave together. Let's split up. Let's use our own shockwave so we can't make any mistakes. And that's what they're doing right here. They're trying to execute the perfect ways possible. Unfortunately, as I kind of brought it up, Dig does make a mistake there, and now he finds himself in an odd situation. He's in between all these enemies. His teammates up on high ground. Up, he's trying to go to him. He's just landing in enemy boxes right now.
That one big
got to make a big move here, and he's going to get caught off guard there. Unfortunately, he did try to get that high ground. He was not fortunate enough to kind of secure the deal here. In comes the minigun pressure. This is an awesome job right here. NJ is going to fall down right there. The Siphon has to come through here so he can get this health bonus. It's putting him in just a better and better situation as time ticks on. And it's looking like a solo right now. This is looking like a solo endgame here, if I'm not mistaken. Everyone representing and looking out for themselves here. There's a huge, heavy snipe shot right there. Dig's going to get really hurt. Can he trade out a shot? The zone's going to go out and finish him off here as Power finds that one right there. And it's MN7 versus this last player right here. There's only 2 players remaining, Shayo.
Yep, it's game 4 in Heat 1, and the competition is getting hot. We have a big pump coming in. ASMR Spy goes down. The Power ASMR rivalry finally ends in the end game. It's now a 1v1 to see who gets those final 4 points, 3 of placement, 1 for the Elim. Nice, big, easy, fast peaks coming down from NM7. Full Lana available. He does have that pump or shotgun delay since he has 2 tacks in. Will it make a difference? Almost not even out of mats at all. Nice 180 tack shot from height, takes down DSQ and D for those big points in. Power is still on top. They can't be stopped right now. Huge game from them.
That was wonderfully done for NM7. And with that, we're going to head over to the floor with Sundown to give us a nice little recap.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And we see the Middle East has been heating up in the action that occurred this morning. Honestly, I'm a big fan. I love watching it, watching the early games in the mid game, the discipline when the team goes, but also the little bit of chaos and kind of like fanaticism that happens in the end games when all of a sudden, just as Monster said, it turned into a solo game right there at the end. But let's dive in and see some of the plays that were made in the past game. And first, we're going to hop on board with Toggle. His positional awareness and the fact that he's able to turn towards the rest of the storm and lay down these rifle shots means he's going to find a number of elims here. And you can see the rest of his team has been down. It's a tale of people making individual strong efforts in the end game. We kind of talked about it before, how they stick very close together in the mid and early game. But we've seen now over and over again, teams aren't necessarily able to keep that discipline when it starts getting hectic and all of these fights are going down. Players start dropping all over the place. Right now, Adam ZK able to find a number of picks using the minigun and the edits to get pressure, but unfortunately isn't clean enough to pick them up without taking back damage. Now you can see Adam is in shambles, so W Horse is trying to play the protector role, but they're in fights on the back of the storm, and this is where it starts to break down. Despite getting the Siphon, everyone on their team needs to now regroup, and boom, we flip back over. W Horse, whole team is eliminated, was able to pick up a number of elims. 5 players left, 4 trios in the match. Power NF from the low ground is able to pick up 2 elims in a row and then maintain his positioning through discipline and then close out in the 1v1, giving him a huge boost. And these clutch factors is what's going to lift these players up, particularly as we head into the grand final tomorrow. I mean, it has just been incredible watching the action so far and getting to see these guys really develop and continue on. And I just want to see what else happens going forward. We're going to throw it back into game with Showager and Monster. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you, Sundown. And yep, the action has been real here, Shayo. That was an exciting last game there. You saw for a second. Hey, Sundown, pretty face. We saw for a second there, you know, couple classic jump shotgun plays, kind of keeping that high ground, kept it real textbook. There was you know, that was his game to lose, if anything. And having the mats to close out must be real good for the Power trio who's been showing up this weekend.
It's always dope to see a kind of mid-ground team hiding out and coming up off the top. The coolest thing to see is the journey from early to end of all the trios coming in and how the decisions they made earlier affected their end game in total at the end. Now we're going to see everyone dropping out of the battle bus. Talk about the breakdown, Monster.
Yep, here we are, guys. Middle East, Heat 1, Game 5 is underway, and we have a really odd split here. It's a southern cut on the bus, which makes it any teams in the north-northwest side are going to have a rough time cutting across that field. By the time they touch down, the zone is just about to reveal itself. So those valuable seconds can really cut away from your loot timing and your battle positioning period. So you can see anyone that plays those southern areas has got that touchdown first. They're already getting to looting here.
Yeah, we're going to tune in right back with Dennis, Mev, and Namfu. We saw them have an amazing performance early on in the day. We're now Heat 1, Game 5, one game away from the final game of the Heat, kind of dictating who is in that top 16 scenario. At Sunny Steps right now, uncontested. One big thing about this POI you want to have at all times is the actual POI uncontested. There's not that much loot to kind of split off on trios. It's a very easy game or an easy place on the map to disengage from. So if you have two trios contesting Sunny and then one dips off, you leave both of you guys pretty much in a very shambles position. So it's very good right now. They have a lot to loot, and they have a lot of the jungle available around them to have some of that, spread out sparse loot on the map.
Yeah, and one of the things about fighting within these pyramid structures, building's weird. Going outside the building to build on the pyramid itself is weird. Mats are kind of scarce, right? Even with the bonus farm format, when you hit stuff during in these arena settings, yeah, you gain a little more material, but you don't really gain much from these stone structures. So batting here in early game is a scary thing, especially if you don't get the loadout of choice. So for them to have it clear as day right here, it's pretty nice.
Very dope advantage they can see kind of pushing off into mid-game. One big thing about having free early POIs as well, we talked about it earlier, options. They have so many options of what they want their actual loadout to look like. A lot of the time if a fight happens, you don't get to see a lot of the loot early. You kind of have to move on because zone's catching up. Right now, they basically have an entire buffet available, and they get to pick every single thing they want to eat. It's amazing. We have stinks, medkits, minis available. Now tuning in to H-Man up in Greasy Grove. Big Elims coming through, two back-to-back, setting these guys up. No taco time to stop the mid-game fight either. These guys are going to be moving through, have all the shield available, and the whole POI free.
Yeah, just like that. You wrap that team up real quick. You saw a little bit of taunting coming out there from H-Man. Dampton a little premature before the taco time. It's okay. He's got to get his groove on somewhere or another. He's probably going to make it to his Instagram before the day's up. Here, let's take a look at the loadouts. The loadouts pretty rough. Just a shotgun, couple shields. Okay. We'll be able to grab some of the Spores of War here. Now we're talking. Now he's looking like a real Fortnite gamer here. He's got something to work with here in the game today. Opting to farm up this metal. It's very nice. Going to set him up for success.
Yeah, it was a super early game fight. You see the contrast of the actual loadout at the same time, right? We have full fleshed out loadouts all the way at Sunny, and now in Greasy we have people just starting up. The big thing about having Greasy free as well is the farm rate and everything around that too. You have everything set up for you. The momentum's there. You're always comfortable. And it's a very easy way to kind of segment and know exactly when and what to build. You're never worried about missing anything mid-game.
And also remember, ladies and gentlemen, Storm Surge is active. So honestly, you kind of want players to land on you at your POI. I know in a perfect world, you beat Storm Surge and you get a whole zone to yourself. But in the real world, in the real Fortnite world, usually doesn't really work out like that. You want those free picks, those early picks. You want your enemies to, botch their landing, not get the shotgun, pump them, catch some easy freebies. So getting those early game fights can be beneficial, especially if you, master your craft. I think early game is one of the hardest, times, or one of the hardest Fortnite things to master, really, I should say. And a lot of teams struggle. There are some players that can pop off in a lot of situations, but they can't really get their gears rolling. They tend to struggle in early game.
Yeah, with few mats available early, since you don't obviously farm out unless you find a llama, and so many spots and natural cover to move around, it's very unpredictable, right? And the top player's worst nightmare is kind of being in a fight in an unpredictable scenario. You have to kind of react to what's on your screen. If you have more than one person focusing you down, that's even worse for you, right? You're always back against the wall. You want to have everything available for you. You want to have some room. So 100% I agree. Early game is something that's very hard to perfect and very hard to kind of prep for when you're playing in the game. It usually just gets thrown onto you.
And these guys are using all this retail row kind of extra loot to really capitalize and find the perfect loadout. So Yonc's going to get a big upgrade right there. Going from a great tactical shotgun up to a legendary shotgun. Legendary tactical, we've seen multiple players, even and that, rare European game one we got to catch. Now, call it rare because you guys know the issues that kind of unfolded today. We saw players, pro players, taking the gold tack over the blue pump, even when it needed most. Players needed it the most, right? You needed that one pump. People were still opting to rock out with the gold tack.
Yeah, the meta for a lot of players and the way they play and take peaks, they use the combat for so much time of the season. They're used to having more bullets to send through. They're used to having,
the fire rate.
Yeah, the fire rate as well, right? It's just the biggest thing they're not used to and they have to kind of adjust to is the pull-out time of that gold and purple tack, because it is slower than all the other shotguns available right now in the loot pool.
Here's Zanzis. So they're going to use hoverboards to get away from the trio that's to the left, or maybe they didn't even realize they're actually firing off in the distance there. So little do they know, someone is already up close and personal, but there it is. The sound cue is given off, and he's actually spotted by Zephyr, who's got the perfect pinch on this player, and Zanzis, who's got the nice range as well with the explodes here. Shield Bubble is going to isolate this player from Zephyr, and Zephyr loses the 1v1.
Shield Bubble absolutely isolates. The big thing about this side of the map, too, is how spread out and isolated you are from the get-go. So much of a split is going on just for looting purposes that when a fight starts, you have to act quick to get back to your team. Fast builds from Zanzis, though. Shockwaves coming through. Still a block off. The tack shots not missing a single one out of 8 in his clip. Zanzis is on point right now. Metal's not going to stop his beam from coming through into your box. A two-way split on pressure on the box as well. I hear a minigun in there too, Monster. This is insane.
It's going down right now. He's not missing any shots. Happy that you noted that because there's knock players everywhere. Wisa goes down. Normally when it's me and I got a tack shotgun, I have a million excuses to figure out why I'm not, landing or damaging, but it doesn't matter. Zanz has shown that you can hit your shots, you're gonna win your fights. And that's exactly how this battle has turned around, because Zephyr was the first to get traded out. So as a 2v3 situation, they're doing so good. Invoke's gonna fall down now as well, which means that last player is very weak, because Zanz has already got 2 knocks here. So let's see how he goes to execute and kind of seal the deal here. So he walks right around, and there he goes. Catches Invoke.
Absolutely no hesitation at all to use any type of utility. Not a certain pattern we usually see. People are more safe and scarce with what they want to use in a fight, especially this early. Mid-game, I understand, throw your 6 stinks. But this, Sans has just used, I think, upwards of his entire rocket clip with what the GL came with as well. And the minigun ammo, no care for it at all. I think we just dropped down from like 600 to 200.
Hey,
Still reaping the benefits.
You know what they say. If you can't take it with you back to the lobby, so you might as well throw it out there, because the worst thing is to get taken out of a game and be like, man, I still had those splashes. I knew I should have padded right there, right? Or, kind of have those regrets. So, good on them to kind of throw it all at the wall when it mattered, because their teammate got taken out first. Zephyr lost. So you might as well throw everything to really take the tide and take the bull by the horns in that situation, I should say. But taking a look at the other side of the map, we have Eska, Toggle, Seagull on the run here from a team behind them. They put some pressure on squads kind of floating around, launch padding above.
And when the zone gets pulled down from this angle, on the entire map, this bone spot, the whole Sakura flower field, is a very interesting place where a lot of trios actually converge. A lot of the POIs on that side of the map usually don't waste too much time actually getting bricked from, but if you have that mentality because you just want to go and farm the teeth, every other trio has that mentality as well. There's so much brick available, as you can see, on the lake, on the actual rock behind you guys, the whole skull. But the big issue is if every trio is thinking that way, this is what ends up happening. A huge fight that blows out, stinks being thrown, a lot of utility being used, including defensive utility like campfires and bubble shields, will have a lot of engagements that you probably don't want to take just because you're on the same page as some other trios in the early game.
And those are some amazing stinks right there to really put the pressure on these players down here. But there's someone in Tilted Town who's actually firing back. There's another squad on the mountain just to the side of that as well. So suddenly what looked like a free push and a free takeout on the squad here in the river is now turned into a really odd situation because they're surrounded by multiple players. RSG Spirit tries to skate away there on the hoverboard. He's going to get picked off immediately by this trio right now. They say, you know what? We caught a freebie over here. Let's go back. Let's get that loot and forget these guys on the river. They'll live to see another day for now.
Yeah, big cost to their resources, though. A lot of, I think, would ultimately just expend it to push that fight. Easily farmable up once again, but we did see so many trios rotating through here. Will there actually be much left at the moment, or will they have to get it on the fly moving forward as well? These guys seem to not stop. It just toggles on 24/7. Fights are on all the time. Not sure why there's just it's a 2-box kind of defensive base right now, but the less boxes you have, the more opportunity for a big pop-off moment. Spirit getting released all the way to that knockdown state. It's a box wall-to-wall fight right now. It's going to be that 50-50 engagement. Big Elim coming out of Toggle.
You gotta show some respect for Toggle shots right there, flicking at the light and the slightest pixel that moved in front of him. He did not miss a shot, hitting 3 flush pump shots right there, and a flawless edit as well on the player that was just picked up. So Spirit got knocked, he got saved, he got put right back down in the dirt, and then Toggle follows up with the other. Now hopping on over to Shifty Shafts. Looks like we have, we saw Sid Dig, we saw MSI Dig and Rampage have a great last game. They're just outside of the Shifty here, and there's another trio nearby.
Amazing. We're going to be looking at Shifty now, one big place to actually get reformable mats in. The biggest part about this, you talked about the whole skull earlier for Brick. A lot of teams do rotate the Shifty for that metal, as once again, on this kind of middle side of the map, especially coming out of Tilted Town, yes, you have an increased plethora of mats available from chests, but to knock off and top off all your metal, you do have to rotate and find a lot with other trios as well. So a dope pattern we're seeing in this mid-game is a lot of Middle Eastern trios on the same page, moving forward, backwards, and all around the map, knowing the exact power, POI, and farm spots mid-game as well, as we see a care package coming down from the top.
That's right, and ladies and gentlemen, we are here. It's Shio Wager, Monster D-Face. We're looking at the Middle East region. We're taking a look at these heats, these games that are unfolding here. A region that we have not covered much of. This is actually, if anything, their debut to the Fortnite main stage here. So to see these players performing under pressure right now, we're looking at our future stars, future names that, will show up for the next World Cup for all we know, right?
Yeah, the scene can only develop more and more and more. They can only review more and play more, which means they'll only get better, and we'll see even greater and bigger things. One big thing I've been seeing these guys utilize mid-game and very early on as well, I want to ask you a question, Monster. What do you think about the uses of shield bubbles mid and end game? When should they be used? How do you manage just having 2 in an inventory?
Yeah, from what I've seen, the shield bubble is obviously one of the most, effective tools to canceling out fire coming in on you when you become the focus point of a server. But more importantly, the perfect way to isolate a team when you decide, hey, we want to pounce on this target as well, so that no one can kind of interrupt or interfere with your battle as well. So the shield bubble is just such a flexible item, and there is no perfect time to use it, because we've seen it used to also just like clog up lanes for fire, right? Or the way these guys have come up with these innovative methods to stick it to yourself when you're on a bush or in a vehicle per se. So the shield bubble has been a great addition to Fortnite. It makes me miss, honestly, the Flint Knock, because the Flint Knock was another great addition, right?
Yeah, it's a versatile item that you can use offensively and defensively at a click of a button, right? The instant actual effect comes there. At the moment now, still more disrespect and momentum. Rampage is causing a scene in every single fight he's a part of. It's great that these guys have such a good spirit when they're playing the game. They're always on point. It seems like they're just having a lot of fun playing these matches, even though we can't hear the comms.
Yeah, I mean, Rampage is really cranking right here. He got that quick knock, it came right back up to high ground, and they're just suddenly resetting for the battle here. But someone's going to get dropped. It's Dig who fell behind, and now this trio is on their back foot here, as someone is looking to dive on them. We're not quite sure who it is that's pressuring them right now, but the fire is coming in from all types of ways. Out comes the poison. Okay, so it's VND and their crew up top on the high ground, really just putting pressure in. Storm keeping them out here. They do manage to get that revive off, and that's one of the perks of trio, right? Trio competitions. One player can save, one can play defense, and we see this executed time and time again. It's not like that in any other game mode, only in trios.
There's so many things as well as just being part of trios. You got that whole 5 more items you can carry as well. You have a whole new role. I remember Bala saying that, when chunk splashes were being introduced and trios were like a concept game mode, you could have just a role of an actual healer in the game. And we see that, the clutch player is usually the one that carries the shockwaves and the RPGs. The support player is usually the one carrying those long-range chunk splashes, the brute force kind of pick-me-up items of the trio, whether it's medkits or extra shields. So it's dope to see that when you have more player slots available, you can dive deep into these roles in your trio.
All right, so this trio here, sitting on the riverbed in a really odd spot. You never want to be in this low ground underneath the mountain at the mercy of all the teams around you. They do have a launch pad, though, and they have a long rotation to make here, so looks like they say, you know what, if we go in the air, we're probably going to get hit out the sky. let's try our best, right? Go on foot, try our luck here. They attempted a freebie rotation, and Dig gets punished with a big sniper shot, but it's okay. He's going to be able to heal up and bounce back, and you know, it was worth it, I guess. They got close enough. They made it to the zone. They didn't really expend all their materials, right? The best of the best teams know how to rotate for free, if you want to call it that, and take the risk to get to where they need to be without wasting material.
Yep, one thing, the kind of relationship towards mid-game and end-game rotations in terms of the resources you have, I think, are materials versus shields.
Yeah.
So if you have more shields, you can't take the risk to take and get shots to your HP pool to save those mats, drink those shields up, and then just go for Siphon endgame, because it's a lot easier to get it there than to do a big mid-game fight. And me saying that, though,
look at this setup. Look at this setup.
Like
Rampage goes underneath their build there, looking for the knockdown to see if they can, you know, sweep someone out from underneath their base. They just are not slowing down the momentum from one place to another. They're bringing the battle to anyone nearby. They're hungry to capitalize on the resources and materials here. That was a heavy sniper right there. You have two players holding down the turbo build, trying to see if they can, you know, keep control of the wall there. Dig makes the reload on the heavy snipe, so any bust, he can make any wall bust that he wants right now. There it is. He opens up another, takes that one right there, makes a quick edit. Can he connect with the shot? He does. He catches one player, but eats a explode from a grenade launcher from somewhere nearby.
The Siphon comes in, though, keeping him healthy. He's going to keep going forward. One decision he made there is not to put that stair in, but to get the damage off first, which proved good for him. At the same time, he did take a shotgun shot back, as well as an explosive, since he didn't own the stair, and it did get edited the moment that explode came in. Now we're switching back over to defense. They did get a few mats off that Siphon, his teammates at least. Now he has enough time to actually take over this whole base. They fill up their loaded slots as well with more things, such as shockwaves and a minigun potentially if they want to take it through as well. And they'll top off on the shields they used when they actually rotated in, using them instead of the mats. We talked about that earlier as well.
Yeah, now looking to retreat back to the metal carcass that they left behind. Remember, metal takes, you know, multiple shots of explodes to kind of break open. They actually find a trio nearby. It's going to be a huge pump shot from 104 now, and they're using the side pinch here. And no, another team comes through. He's going to hit the big pump. He's not missing, but it's just not enough to close the deal here. Rampage is left by himself, but I'm sure the comms are, you know, giving out. They're weak. They're definitely weak. Let's see if Rampage can pull it together here. He has 13 minis in the loadout here, and he is going to find, yeah, there it is. He's got to switch up the loadout here just a bit. Can he get his heals off, though? Can he get the medium bullets? No, he actually only has 5 mediums in the legendary, or in the epic AR here.
Yeah, one thing I was going to notice, even if he does survive, what can he actually do? He kind of just has to stay in boxes, zone to zone, shockwave, and hope to get into someone's box or wreck another trio's game to get back in and online. Because right now, I'm counting him completely out of the running against all these big other trios. You see Namfu right above him and VND below him as well.
That was a worst-case scenario, too. When you hear that team chug splash going off, when you're like, ooh, that was ours. They caught our boy. They're using our resource. They're all healthy. Now you know they're healthy. So that's not a battle you can take. So the VND boys managed to topple the team right there, the Rampage crew, and now make a big rotation here, and they get away with it. They get away with a beautiful launch pad, leading them right into this Storm Wave 6, where we'll get our first moving zone. So we have a nice little stink grenade right there. It's going to put some pressure up, but this trio is so split now.
Now, one thing to big note as well is that these guys are on point with using the proper mats at the proper times. At the moment, they're boxed up before a moving zone. This is where you want no interruptions on your game plan. You don't want your base to get shaken. You don't want any disturbances possible. So you're using those hard mats to make sure you're not focused.
Yep.
Because no one's going to pop in 3 AR mags of a SCAR to break open exactly where your box is, right? So this is very smart for them to just kind of have a little bit of premeditated planning. Then using wood later on, they're almost topped up on every mat as well, which is very, very smart from these VND boys. As you said, you know, we talked about it earlier, I love having rainbow loadouts. And right now they have every color on the spectrum available. Shockwaves, miniguns, the Silent Scar, and a bunch of heals to get split over. A very cool thing Hater did right there is dropping that big pot over to his teammate. You never know what happens on rotation. One person might go down. It's good to have loot sparsely kind of allocated between everyone so everyone has that clutch moment chance.
Double minigun is going to start cooking here as they have a player on the run. It's going to be Weil who gets taken out of his Wildest Dreams right there. Unfortunately, in comes the Shockwave, and Hadar finds himself in the zone right now. At the cost, of course, of a lot of HP, but there it is. That Elim is converted. Dreamwild falls down. And now Hadar's just got to eat some zone. He's trying to crank his way up this mountain. Such a weird spot to be in. There's a player right underneath him. I wonder if he's going to turn around and try and catch this free pick right here. No, he's just more worried about defense. There it is. Little offensive play right there. Can he connect? No, he's going to get taken out. Gets dropped real quick. Now hopping over to Xanxus, Zephyr, and others. You can see just from a nice aerial view of the rotation these players have to make, the struggle that they have going up and over the mountain, and now through what might be the best terrain right here. It's kind of flat. This is where you want to be.
This is where you want to be if you're on the front side of that zone. But anyone at the back on the blue line, once people get based up and realize once Fahad is done drinking these shields, they're going to look straight back for all those elims to come pouring and funneling through. So yes, it's amazing to have flat land if you are in that advantageous position.
FHD does pop the launch pad right there, and out they go floating. Kind of an early launch pad as well, just to go and battle for the high ground. So this is that zone wave 6 we talk about, going for the high ground nice and early here. He's cooking that minigun right now, trying to see what he can do. Little does you know, there is another team up high. There it is. This player has been spotted, melts him right out the sky. Wild Gamer here goes straight down, and the high ground is the power trios. Once again here, the minigun's just the perfect situation. They're just chopping players down. This is just too easy for him at this point.
Yeah, but split solo as well. He doesn't have to worry about his teammates getting in the way at all. It's free reign for Fahad right now. Even if he does get knocked down due to low mats, it's the only thing I can see that can stop his reign right now. But his teammates can cover that as well. He's going to keep minigunning down. The shockwave is the perfect thing for him too. Getting people down to white tags. Has the shotgun to switch over to as well. Yonks up top. Looks like he actually bit off more than he could chew. Fahad goes down. These guys still have so many elims right now. 6 with more to come. The zone is just flipping back. Looks like they have an advantage to hold back the whole zone from height as well on hard mats. Shockwaves are the only thing that can stop them from this position.
And the reason it really works out for them, minigun, high ground, in this situation specifically, is because it went right over low terrain. Everything dipped, so everyone's floating on weak builds, weak wood. When the minigun comes chopping, it's taken all that resource, all that material with it, and all these players were just thrown down to the low ground. It's hard to defend at that point because you have to block what's coming up from above. You have to protect your floor plank below you. You can see there, he's going to actually use a shockwave. That's actually really odd. He throws a player out to the zone. You see for a second there, the lining did show someone in the storm, so it was successful. And there it is. Someone goes down, but Yonk's still at it. He's looking for the shotgun shot right here. And they're just going to win. They're just going to hold players out. I guess the shockwaves kicking them to the zone was worth. It kind of all went in their favor, huh?
Yeah, it was a very unique ending right there. Very casual. They straight up started doing weird edits on height at the end. Absolutely no respect. We're going to be throwing it over to Sundown to break down more of what we saw in this heat and more. Sundown, what you got?
What I got is some more highlights from the early and mid, and then a great display of the power trio holding the high ground and kind of putting what I said a little bit to shame in the last analysis. They were able to stick together as a duo and run out the rest of the lobby, showing that teamwork and the prevalence and the ability to dominate. So very well played from them. Let's hop on in and see what went down in the match. So first, again, we're hopping on board with Toggle and his trio as they're able to get a knock and then put a great amount of pressure onto them. Stealing the wall on the other side, seeing the chug splashes go down, and just going to work. Boom, knock right there, gets the conversion, and they're able to then find the other opponent inside the shield bubble and reap all of the rewards from that. Now on board with the Alter Ego crew, who is able to find a pinch and then get the knock and seeing the teamwork. So now we'll see it from the other perspective, just the amount of pressure they're putting on, constantly pickaxing, trying to take the wall and trying to not allow the opponents to get away. This is the early aggression that's disciplined through, and you can see Dennis Smith being able to catch the opponent out there. Nasir going down, stuck between a rock and a hard place on the side of the wall, and again, just putting these rifles to work on the backside of the storm and catching people in unfavorable positions. Now you can see Mev picking up Lin there and able to avoid the trap. And this is a great rotation coming out from Moon as he's able to land right on the side of the bubble shield, box himself out, and catch a quick edit. You barely even saw him take that shot out, but now he's able to track down and get the loot from that to put his team in a great position. But now on board with the power trio as they just run out the high ground. And I mean, just watch here. Like his ability to track Jiren there, constantly checking his angles, and they were, again, never threatened. We talk about high ground control and being able to work top down and converting it into eliminations. There was a reason these guys were on top in this heat, and it was their ability to execute and finish in the end games. That is back-to-back victory royales running out from the power trio. And again, there's a reason they ran Heat 1. But now we're going to continue with our Middle East coverage. I'm going to hop into the casting booth, and joining me will be the fantastic, as Zeke said, amazing, individual, award-winning Dr. Lupo.
I don't know about all that, but I appreciate it. Thank you, Sundown. We have one game left from Heat 1 in the Middle East, and man, it is coming down to the wire. A lot of really crazy plays, and you were taking a look at everything that we've seen thus far from that last match. The pace at which these players are playing, I think, we've said it before. A number of us have mentioned it. Now that the Middle East has a more localized server to connect to, the level of play is really showing that even they can keep up. So going into potentially the next World Cup, if that's something that's in the future for them, it's going to be interesting to see yet another player base added to the pool of players that play for that. So.
I know, I enjoyed a lot seeing players coming out from India, Saudi Arabia, from Southeast Asia. They're all over the place, but the games are ready, so let's hop onto the battle bus and drop on in to continue our coverage of the Middle East. And again, apologies in terms of those who wanted to watch the European action. We're intending on watching that. Heat 1 did get moved to tomorrow during the same time as Heat 4, but I will also say I've really enjoyed getting an extended look. It's not a lot of times. I know during the World Cup coverage we did go back and watch some of the Asia and Oceania replays, but we don't often get to do a deep dive into some of these other regions. So I'm really enjoying it as someone who tends to go back and watch a lot of the server replays just on my own. Getting to explain this and kind of show off these gameplay, it's really enjoyable to me.
Believe me, I understand people want to see their favorites and things like that, and we will get to all those players, time permitting. You have to realize, though, this being Middle East's first opportunity to play in a competitive event like this, it is big for everybody involved.
And if you see in the top left right away, Klops and Fiesel full elimed off the bat. And that was the thing I talked about. They did end up making it through to the grand final tomorrow, but they struggled a little bit, to be honest. Everyone, again, I was the only one who picked against them, but I will say it's still not tomorrow yet. They're there, which is all that ends up mattering, but they didn't seem anywhere near as dominant as they were before, and you can tell right off the bat, them getting contested game in and game out, that's the second time we've seen them be the first trio eliminated from a match.
One at a time here at Kid Falcon. Spammy and Mad Clown picking up a set of eliminations on this trio. One after another, they fall, and we're at 3 points already. 16 total for this team.
And that's really just tends to be a case of when you lose the quick gun races at the start. Sometimes it's just unfortunate it doesn't go your way. Like you think, oh yeah, like I got attacked, that's great. But if 3 other people have rifles and you're out in the open, like no way you've gotten more than, what, 30, 60 mats tops? Yeah. Like they'll burn through that real quick. So it's just situationally getting the right gear at the start and then finding ways to either avoid or take the fight. But the GE boys cleaning that one up there.
Good pickup here, too. They own the remainder of Shifty Shafts. Meanwhile, up on top of the floating island, Aga, Yagami is hanging out, farming through everything that they can up here. Not easy to jump off just yet, although it is a slightly... It's a tough spot, I'm just going to say, because they're up above the block, so you have a chance to take shots down and contest one of the most competitive drop spots typically, because the way that the block is designed, it's player-based, so from time to time, when it changes, it's almost a toss-up whether or not it's going to be good or bad. And right now, a number of teams across, I think, every region are planning on dropping block. I've seen things on Twitter, even going so far as DMs to say, hey, you dropping block, and admitting very clearly that it's going to be a contested drop for some of the more competitive players. So up here on top of the floating island, they have a chance to look down from above and take some shots. I don't think it's going to happen, though, because you don't want to give away your position. Even early game, if you ask to get shot at, by doing so, it's going to cause a problem. They do have a mech here, low light, bouncing around. Yaga might jump in with and continue this rotation. The third player still up on top of the block. Yagami's still up there. They have the tornado into the block. They have an opportunity to rotate off of that. You know, it's basically a free launch pad. Nope, pressure time it is. Engaging and pushing forward. Rockets out from the mech. The Brute, 2 trios inside here at the block. it would not surprise me if all 6 of these players, given the chance, just turn and beam this thing into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, generally what you see in the trios format in particular, and even in solos, if there's a mech in play, everyone's like, no, you don't get that advantage.
It needs to go right now.
But right out the way, you can see that's 2 different 50 shield tags going through, and they're getting aggro, even getting close enough to try and get some stomps, and the shotgun damages. Ours gets picked up by that, and that is just a brutal way to go down. And unfortunately, these teams are being engaged by it, and it seems to be this is one of the times. So mechs in trios, like I know there's a lot of people who are against it. There weren't a ton of times where they were like very overwhelming. This is one of them. This is when you can get them in high ground in the late game and have them be protected. And I'm talking about at the highest level. I'm not saying that, like, yes, people can't run around and it gives you a massive advantage, because we've all been subject to this and it's not fun. With that being said, at the absolute highest level, normally you see the players able to find ways around it. But if you're already engaged in a fight and a brute ends up walking out, good luck. Like, you're not, what are you going to do? Stop fighting the people who are immediately against you? No, because they're not going to stop fighting. It's basically just, you're stuck with no good choices in that circumstance. Or some of the end game clips, I know Elocrats and Thomas did it in the late game, but they got 2 brutes up on the high ground where everyone else was just boxed up and had to worry about transition, and then they pulled zone. And it's just like, you don't play against that. Good luck.
4 eliminations. Lowlight, Gaga, Yagami now technically have both the island and the block. They pushed the remaining player. I believe just one made it away on rotation out to the southwest there. So they essentially picked up 2 solid POIs with 1 mech, just because, especially this block, you had all 6 players were based inside that structure in the middle. So a lot of the line of sight to take shots at this mech, it was already blocked, which gave them the chance to just push in, start stomping, dropping shotgun shots and the rockets out as often as they can. A big swing. These guys are already in a great spot.
Yep, and now you get the rotational tool as well. They didn't even lose a ton of damage on the mechs, and it's kind of one of those things where you talk about the inherent weaknesses of it. While there are some, we're effectively covered in this engagement. There was absolutely no way the brute was not walking away from that successful, simply because the few opportunities that would have been there, the only way they could have possibly maybe have gotten out of it is if one of those people had decided or landed on a boogie bomb.
Exactly.
So it's like that is your only chance in that circumstance. Otherwise, you're just out, and effectively, you're out, you're gone, 4 over. And the block, the reason why it's so contested, there is always a very dense amount of ammunition, loot, and materials. You will always be able to get maxed out 1,500 per player, and you'll be leaving there with enough ammunition to where you aren't going to be scared to harass people in the mid game, which in competitive trios is huge, which is why you see a number of people there. Now, getting the fortune of the fact that Kevin was directly above the block, and then a brute lands right next to him. I mean, that is just praying to RNGesus and taking every advantage of it.
The stars certainly aligned, but they took, like you said, they took big advantage of the situation. Ended up coming out there with 4 eliminations and basically everything else that they could need up to that point. I think there was a heavy snipe, which we see here, set up the top of Viking Village, taking a shot there. Can't quite connect. 2 players, I believe Rampage is also with him up top there. The third, not even seeing on the minimap. Just there we go, right on the screen right there, far north. Rotating across, still taking shots. These guys aren't going to challenge. You have a chance to maybe land a big hit from up here.
That's not a Dr. Lupo snipe. You hit those.
Imagine a knock from this distance. They might not be able to capitalize on it, but you're going to slow that team down. Somebody's got to go back, try and pick up the revive. Meanwhile, this trio will rotate in and get ahead, well, just like this, try and get inside the safe zone, and they can stormhold at this point.
Yeah, you have to be so absurdly careful when doing that off the edge of the mountains. You want to avoid trees there at absolutely all costs, because if you clip a tree and
suddenly
lose your fall immunity, I mean, that is some of the worst. So I'm going to go like all the way back, right? PAX West, the very first time we actually did an event, we were going through, we were doing the tech testing, and we had like all the observers. I was like, hey, I'm going to do really well in this test. We'll make sure like everyone is watching me, all that. So we get it all lined up so everything is going. I'm flying into Tilted right away. I see a number of people there, really excited. I clipped a tree right when I was going, lost my immunity, fell down. Very first person eliminated from the match. We had to actually scramble all of the tech and the tests we were doing to then look at somebody else. I had to explain to everyone why I was the first one that was out. So that was fun, but avoiding that, I know Ninja was a big fan of that tree as well a number of times. So
I feel as though a number of players have shared that similar experience, Tim the Tatman especially. Meanwhile, pushing forward here, you have 2 players from a trio to the north already at that gas station. One is separated, which means if these three do run into them, I would not be surprised if aggression happens, especially a leadoff shot with that heavy snipe. A knock here on either one of those players. Abdullah all the way in the back. Nadia and Nasir still there, separated.
And one thing about Siddig, Siddig, and Rampage, they were in the highlight video from Week 5. They qualified through the automatic qualification, and they actually dropped me a DM saying, hey, watch out for us. We feel like we've been playing very good, but give us a shout-out because I promise we'll be there. Sitting on 61 points right now in the 6th game. They were in that top rank. Like, looks like we're going to be seeing them in the grand finals, and now hitting that snipe and being the aggressors here in the mid-game. But notice how there is a team coming up behind them, and they're only covering one direction right now.
They're looking right now. You see the arrows in your mini-map down there. They're kind of jumping and rotating and checking to the left. They want to see if at some point there's a chance to find a shot. They'll eliminate the knockdown there. Pushing forward. It looks like a little bit of a weapon swap issue. Despop with that sniper rifle. Meanwhile, they are building up the Splodes to try and drop any of the material that they can. Get inside the box, take the ramp, go for the swap, find the shotty shot, and can't quite connect. Sitting down to 92 HP, a little bit of a panic. The splashes right now might be the key, especially if you have a teammate nearby. Pick that up, get the siphon off of it. 90 eliminated. It is now an outnumbered situation here. Secure the walls and make sure you own every piece of the structure. Yeah, right here. Stack up, splash it. Gonna happen? Maybe, maybe not. Waiting for it.
Okay, no, no, use the full instead first.
There we go.
Make sure you get every little bit of it. They want to maximize their efficiency. They did have the other player knocked and they haven't quite converted on it, so they should know that player is looking for the revive. They're trying to find him right now and building up for the height advantage, but they're kind of opt to knock it down. I think you should probably just try and chase and find it.
The shockwave a second ago, I believe, was from the opponent trying to take that ultimate high ground. Siddig still going for the knockdown on the structure here. We'll see. Yep, Abdullah all the way up top right now. Trying to rotate away, it looks like.
I think the conversion just went over for that Elim as well. He got knocked and did take full damage and then will get the convert over right after the other one. So that's another 3 Elims going up to them, pushing them to 64 points, but 24 trios still remaining.
The wall right at their back. You've got players flying across in front, the launch pad. This is kind of an interesting rotation. You have that trio basically separated from each other at this point. A player landing all the way on the north side next to that hill. You see him ducking around the outside now, making their way to the east to try and get inside the safe zone. And they do so. All inside now.
Oh, yeah, they're on driftboards. Okay, I was trying to figure out like how they came flying through right there, but able to get a couple shots. I mean, that can be very scary, rounding a front of a trio who is ready to take shots at you on a driftboard, but as long as you're able to clear enough space, people will generally trade shield tags for having a driftboard on the rotation, because more often than not in trios, somebody is carrying excess shields, just with kind of how the loophole is right now, which is I'm a huge fan of, and the fact that trios really enables you to effectively always have at least 2 slots.
I think the competitive player base as a whole is very appreciative of the number of shield restoring mechanics in the game right now. 123 builds in the inventory, 24 trios still remain. We have a minute 15 until we make our way to the 4th circle. It's like a far northeast push from where we currently are, the safe zone in the bottom right corner of your screen there. Good at making moves. The marks basically communicating what may or may not be the best call. They're going to build up for just a second.
They've had pretty decently far storm rotations from them too, right? Like the zone hasn't been doing them a ton of favors, but meanwhile though, you remember that, I wonder how that mech team ended up doing, because everything ended up pulling towards north, so they should have just been set to be running wild, but haven't seen a ton from them.
Their best bet, their best bet at this point may be to take, if they still have the mech, find a hill, build up around it, and protect it for late game. And that might be exactly what we're looking at right there. Yeah, in fact, minimap that's the same color as the team earlier that was on the island and dropped down into the block. So they are still up there. I'm assuming still with, actually, there's no mech on the minimap, so it may be gone now. Moving forward here. 18 seconds until this circle starts to push. Team up on the hill, they're going to have to move soon. I'm assuming a launch pad of there's something up there. Otherwise, they're waiting maybe a little too long to make movements at this point.
Well, you can, as long as you're not on like the far side of that zone, you can outrun it, but that's just always terrifying. Like even this to me is a scary rotation because you look at the number of old builds that are there. Luckily on the bottom of the map, you know, since you're marking the edge of the zone, there's only really like, well, they don't know this, but we know that there's only one team who's realistically in between there. But passing all of these old builds is terrifying. You can see the Driftboard team on the purple coming in, as well as that other team who is on the high ground seems to be making a launch pad rotation since they are so high up and flying at a consistent speed. But as that circle is encroaching, expect Siddig, M-Siddig, and Rampage to run into a little bit. Oh, here they are, boxed up in the mech.
They do still have the mech.
Yep.
They do still have the mech inside the zone now. No reason to leave that just yet. Basically going to wait for an opportunity to drop some rockets. That's exactly what they're doing. The shield bubble enough to save that team over there, but it doesn't last forever. We'll have to see if they opt to take more shots in a second. Meanwhile, very aggressive push in the top left here, making their way inside, owning the box, and Monksy goes down. Elimination there, putting them at 4 total, 65 points right now. You have to remember, top 15 placement. So when placement points start to come into place, we still have a handful, 8 more teams, 8 more trios need to go down before that even becomes a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much so to get there. You can see Monksy was the solo pushing us into top 23 duos. So only 5 trios have actually dropped over the course. And it's 9th through 12th. We'll be getting that first round of placement points. 5th through 8th getting the next. 3rd and 4th will receive one. And then 2nd gets a bump. So honestly, to me, 2nd place, it feels like a little bit better in the trios format when you get there, but at the same time, it makes that final fight just that much more important. Always being a 4-point swing. Like, yeah, you get the bonus because you were in 2nd place, but you know it could have always been that much more. And right now, these guys have priority on the near side of the zone, but there's a number of teams who pulled slightly better into some great dinks right there. You can see the headshot go through, but not a full shield break, only getting the 62 and then an immediate cover from the teammate.
If you look at the next safe zone, too, a large portion of it is centered over the water, which, if you get caught out there, low builds or no builds, it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. The fact that you have to jump and hop slowly across the water, you don't run nearly as fast. You're basically exposed. It's going to be a tough spot if there's anybody over there. I would expect that northeast side and the west side are going to be completely chock full of teams. Players are going to try and avoid minus whoever that is in the bottom right, the southeast side of the next safe zone. They're just going to own that right now. There's no need to move too far. They're even on the slowest edge of the circle. They can just kind of wait and see who may make their way down the hills in towards this river.
So in particular, because this is zone 4, which means zone 5, the next one is going to be the half in, half out.
Yep.
So you don't want to be central on the next zone. When this one closes, you're banking on it being on the outside edge. If you're central, it's guaranteeing a short rotation, but that you have to move. If you're on the outside edge,
there's a chance.
Yeah, there's a chance that you pull zone and that you have a big opportunity to catch people in that rotation. Because going from far side there into the half and half is brutal if you don't have the correct amount of mobility, or it can even then just be bad because of sightlines. Like we've seen people get beamed making regular launch pad rotations.
Now, to no one's surprise, the inventory of the power trio, specifically we had Fahad up there for a second. I would assume everybody's inventory on this team is absolutely stacked. You've got pump shotguns basically all around. I saw I believe two launch pads in Fahad's inventory. An RPG yet again. This trio seems to pick up some of the best loot every single game, which will help them consistently climb to the top. Now, loot's not a guarantee. Don't take it the wrong way, but it absolutely does help when you're looking at players like this, NM7 as well, all 3 of them. No eliminations yet, but 71 points literally proves the last 5 games for this trio has been through the roof. They have been just destroying.
And they just pulled zone. Look at that bottom right-hand corner. You can see the 2 orange triangles and then that 1 white. They pull zone. They have the stinks. They have rockets. They have a minigun. They have every single part of an arsenal you can want. But right now they are being challenged. You can see trying to get the wall back right away because they know they're on edge of zone. Good rocket away. And Mansour catches that one with his teeth. There was another damage tick over as well. But Power able to catch himself before. And now you get more loot to work with. Those are excess builds. So what can you do? You're already in zone. Build up with that extra material, do the Tfue special, build up a massive tower, go back down, and then mark yourself back up. That's the second elim. You talked about it right there. We still have 7 more trios to drop before placement points end up coming through, but these elims are going to go all the way through.
4 more trios now. We're at 19. Look at it. It's
Top 12.
Sorry, it's top 12.
Yeah,
Not top
9 to
15.
12.
My apologies.
Yep. No, it's all good. It's it took me forever to get used to the new trios one because there was an extra like scoring threshold going through. So when I was like counting through and calculating, it always took me forever. But Toggle is somebody who's been impressing me a lot. He's been in like a number of our packages just as an individual player, making some great plays. So shout outs to him for again making it into the end game and has a pretty solid loadout. So expecting him to potentially make some more plays here as we hop on board.
It's funny, you mentioned the Tfue special earlier, literally sitting on, honestly, one of the most commonly seen weapons, I think, in Turner's inventory. That scoped AR, either that or an infantry, always sitting up top and taking shots. If Toggle can take high ground, put that thing to use. Right now, stuck down here, he and Eska basically in a box side by side to see if they can make their way up down to only a duo. Sigil eliminated earlier in this match, 69 builds. 2 shockwaves, which can come into play here in a second. We're going to see the next circle all the way south. We're looking at a push out basically into the water. Now, there were builds out there earlier from a team that was sitting in the water. So you know their structure. If they were paying attention, they know their structure as well. So you can imagine maybe a push at just the right time since they're they're near the front of this zone. They have a chance to get onto those builds ahead of other players, build up, and put that scope they are to use. That's what I want to see right here from Toggle, and we'll see if he can pull it off.
I think that's what he's going for, or he's looking for a quick cone peek right off the bat, knowing that the rest of the lobby has to rotate off of him. He might think it's safer to try and catch a quick pump as somebody goes through, but as I say that, he abandons the cone peek, goes over with his teammate, and you're probably going to see some shots coming out here, and then a shockwave to try and take the high ground on those old builds, as you said.
A long-range TAC SMG, here we go. He's looking for it. They're literally already plotting the drop. The shockwave shoots across, maybe a little too far to the left, potentially separated from his teammate. We'll see here in a second.
Go on.
Down to the bottom right, yep. Now's the time to build up. He has a chance to take the front of this zone. It looks like that's exactly what he's doing. He might be trying to drop down and match elevation with his duo here. That bubble shield from underneath. It's only 60 damage above the threshold. Finds elimination on Suber. Making the way on through there.
But that wasn't his knock. They didn't get an Elam, so that was just a conversion. However, he will pop up on some of the mats, but not the ones he really needed. Now sitting on max metal as we're closing in on top 15, nearing that first placement threshold there. You see Yonks going down there. Some great shots coming out from Toggle, but can he full convert? Instead, goes to the far side, 20 HP. No, he caught himself.
Very close, 20 HP remaining, sitting in the front. This is basically the same situation, except he's on the ultimate low ground, looking for shots to take on players that are going to try and make their way in. He's kind of in the middle of the zone now, and there's going to be pressure from the back if there's still someone behind him. Looks like it might be clear now, so they're waiting. They might be going for that last shockwave to push their way in. Yep, Toggle indeed did. You see him at the bottom of the screen now. Landed basically right next to Rampage, MSidig, and Sidig. That trio all still alive. Meanwhile, the top, I am not even remotely surprised. Yonks is eliminated, but Fahad and NM7 sitting on the ultimate high ground. The minigun coming out. And if Fahad still has rockets remaining, this weapon combo might be the way to a victory.
They have so many shields still, so many campfires,
6 RPG shots.
There's no way. They're splitting mats still, too, to make sure they have the ability to tarp out. This is some great teamwork, and this is what we talked about before. Kind of, this is where the game starts to break down a little bit in terms of the Middle East. You don't have the rest of the trios. You can't just stack up. You're forced to rotate. But this duo up on the high ground, this is all the amount of control that you need. Look at the shots going down, converting into Elims. When we hopped on board with them earlier, they had 0. Now they're pushing up into 6 and 7 as they just have free high ground. Nobody is even looking at them.
In the middle of that, NM7 did pick up 2 eliminations. It's 4 right there. 2 and 1, a total of 7 for this trio thus far, putting him at 87 points in the final game of the Middle East. He won.
And we're into top 4, so that's the third to last placement threshold. It's all about top 2 in the VR from here, and there's no way the power trio is going to give it up as Sidig ends up getting dropped there as well.
Just love the name Power Trio. Shots still raining down. 5 RPGs remaining in NM7's inventory. The trap, 2 full shields, a slurp, the pump, and a gold AR. 3 trios remaining, down to 2. The last set of placement points before the Victory Royale. An RPG to lead, trying to find a shotgun shot through the hole, and the last second flick on Toggle guarantees that victory royale.
That's 9 elims and the VR. 24 points coming through there. That's back to back to back that we've seen. I think they won 4 games in total there through the whole stretch. So, whew, wow, power trio.
Sometimes you're just better. Speaking of better, we have the man with some of the best looks in the house, Zeke, standing by in the studio. What do you got, Zeke?
I'm so caught off guard. I thought that was going to go a completely different way. I don't know what to say, so we're going to go over to Shy now. Take it away.
We got a package right here breaking down a lot of what just happened in that game, both on top, on high ground, as well as low ground, and a few of the shambles positions. A very cool theme, actually. We're going to break it down, see exactly how things are going. Let's check it out. Right now, we're going to take the lesson that everyone kind of knows, but break it down a little bit more as well. When you're by the zone, by yourself, split off from the rest of the map, there's still a chance to actually pick up points and do well. Right now, we see an insane amount of survivability, a insane amount of points actually coming out, even if they're not placement. A nice kind of full send, actually, to go for points, not worry about placement, stay in the storm. The big lesson for playing inside the storm is sticking with your teammates as much as possible. W Horse does that very, very well. He then does split off, does go down, unfortunately. That does happen, but he still got a lot of points he wouldn't have got beforehand. Now, another perspective as well. On zone line, not actually in it, staying ahead of it with power weapons. You can't look back. That means the minigun's going to be used for quick, fast elims early, and then still full sending, no building. Don't worry about the loot. Just keep trying to shoot as much as possible. We'll see a Reese's trio, the last surviving member of it, staying on low ground next to zone line once again. Shambles position. Can't finish out other trios, but chooses for that risky play of gaining positioning first and then going for uninsightful and kind of, random position knocks on people ahead of them. They kind of expect him to go back for loot, but he stays ahead of the circle, uses nice ingenuitous type of peeks from the water down low, and then still tries to commit, does not even care for the loot, still keeps going for those elims, knowing the win condition of this entire game is getting those points. We're going to now flip over to the power trio, the powerhouse of the entire Middle Eastern region so far. Power
this morning coming out of heat number 1. So FHD, and I think I was corrected, it's Fahad, I believe. We will double check, but Fahad/FHD, Yonks, and NM7 are leading the pack by a pretty significant margin. Don't forget, this is everyone here has qualified going on through. But I mean, we look, where is the trio that, let's see, okay. I like this trio. Do we have figured out what this is? Is it Siddig?
I'm pretty sure it's Siddig, yeah.
I like it. Okay. This is my second trio. Now, don't forget, Klops, Fiesel, they're still somewhere to be found. We'll catch up with them in their heats. But what do you think so far, man? I mean, I'm very impressed coming out of the Middle East. I mean, this is relatively a new region in the competitive format, and it's really cool to just kind of see how they play, like what their style of Fortnite is heading into these kind of qualifiers.
Well, the biggest thing I've seen is a utilization of different types of metagames and tactics. You have the Power Boys who play and use everything for the actual end game, which is really nice, right? You see Shockwaves coming down all the way at the end. You see a lot of their utility used at the end. But then you have Rampage doing exactly what his name says. Rampaging forward mid-game, Shockwaves, stinks, explosions, everything in his inventory. He's sometimes down to just a tactical shotgun. I don't know if he's dropping his ARs, but it's all used mid-game. That's where they get the majority of their points. So it's really cool to see different things go on the leaderboards in different placements, top to bottom.
That's right. I mean, don't forget, guys, there is 7 regions playing here in Grand Finals. I know we all want to watch MMB, of course we do, but don't forget there's other regions that also have been working incredibly hard to make it here and want to be crowned season champions. But Fortnite fam, with that, we're going to hop back into games. This is heat number 2, game number 4, and we're back with Dr. Lupo and Sundown.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. As you can see there was the leaderboard real quick, but we're going to hop right on into the next matches. Now, Klops, Fiesel, and them were in that heat. They did qualify going through. They were just on that other page inside the top 16. So don't forget, in some of the smaller regions, Asia, Oceania, and Middle East, it is the top 16 to advance because there's only the 2 heats, whereas in the larger regions, there are 4 heats. So they will be playing in the grand final, and since there is no money on the line today there, that's what it's all about. So the performance is, you know, you're there, you're playing in it.
For anybody that did not follow the heat and layout format of the entire event, go to Google and ask. They will help you, I promise. Meanwhile, we are in Game 4 of Heat 2. The Middle East region still, you see in the top right corner of your screen, just a quick little reminder there, the very beginning of this game. We mentioned Tilted Town earlier. This is one of my favorite personal drop locations right now.
Really?
Oh, absolutely, because even with the lack of building, you'd think there's nothing you can farm here, you can't break anything. You can still make it out here with quite an arsenal, a ton of materials, and heals for days, because the limited loot pool really does focus a lot of the energy into just a handful of different things you see here. Picking up grenades. You've got shockwave. Basically you're going to land on a pump every single time. An AR is almost guaranteed as well. There's a handful of other, little pieces to mix it up. A sniper maybe in the hands of one of your players, that kind of thing. So for me personally, I love seeing a Tilted Town drop because these players are going to come out with a guaranteed loot pool that a lot of competitive players are going to favor no matter what. Plus, infantry rifles are huge late game. You're going to see a lot of people getting picks from the top of towers while others are on rotation. I have to say, it's one of my favorites.
So I don't disagree. I'm a fan of kind of landing near it and then trying to poach through it and seeing whether or not it's been looted or to catch somebody.
You're that guy on the hill that shoots at me.
Well, if I'm rotating around and through occasionally, but in terms of dropping there, the one thing that sticks out to me, I'm a big fan, and I play a ton of solos. Solos is definitely my main game plan. I hate when I get in a situation where I felt like there wasn't anything I could do. And if I'm rotating through, there are certain angles in Tilted Town where there is a solid 2 to 3 seconds where if somebody has a bead on you, you will get 200 to 0, period.
Yep.
And for that to happen to me, any time that is more than 0 in an arena match or in a competitive match or in anything is unexcusable for me. I love avoiding those situations and not putting myself in a spot. But with that being said, we can see tons of people opting to go here and taking fights. Right now, Ranger getting the drop, picks up Clafty, and then immediately into double pump swap. Those were great shots, and only one of his teammates has been full elim, so he might be able to get over there and save Nightmare as well, but he's trying to track the other player, does take just the edge of it, and Disco.
See the attempted push there. See if they can pick up the last second hit. 120 from above. Might not be able to connect, and they can't. Ranger picking up the trio of eliminations. Able to get the revive on Nightmare, and hopefully pick up on Obito here in a second to go grab the card and get that revive and Tilted Town. Nicely done.
Yeah, and now that they're fully uncontested, they knew there was another team there, Tilted Town becomes much more appealing, right? Now the only way you're going to get picked is somebody coming through the outsides, and a lot of people will not actually venture in. People will look down and see, is anyone there? If yes, shoot. If no, let's go anywhere else.
Immediately after that last elimination, the Discord call that they're in right now, they all just went nuts. Absolutely went nuts. And I don't blame them. A three-piece right there as Rangers defending his trio is huge. They do, like you said, they pick up Tilted Town uncontested now. Now, they may not realize it from, we can see the minimap that there's nobody else there, and there's no one else looking for a third-party opportunity from up on a hill, like you're saying you like to do, which makes me no longer your friend, Sundown. It's okay. Just kidding. But this is a really good spot for them now. They can move back into town, pick up as much of the loot that is here as possible. You see they're splitting minis and any other shields. It's going to be material share, that kind of thing. It's a great spot for them to be in right now.
Now we're going to hop over to one of my favorite drop spots, both as a split drop in trios and a drop in solos, is the Hot Springs with the Fishy.
So speaking of the Fishy, there it is.
Yeah, able to pre-edit going through, but there's 2 different chest spawns in the fish. There's 2 chest spawns over on the beach. There's 2 chest spawns up top. There's driftboard spawns up top and over the other sanctuary. And plus that driftwood that's over by the hot springs is 27 a tick. But as I say that, Deadshot gets dead-shotted right away.
This is the problem with this drop. You're saying it is literally a required split drop, so you have people, your trio is not everybody's near each other, and right there, Deadshot being too far to the east ends up paying the price. Not a good look early game in Game 4 for this trio.
Yeah, but normally you're supposed to sprint over here or have a teammate drop over at this science spot immediately, because this is a great source of both metal and brick with 2 different chest spawns. And not having control of this, you typically will sprint over here with the drift board, but they ran straight into a fight. Godlike takes a ton of damage right off the bat. No shields left to him. Tyrax has to box himself up, and they're in a tough situation when he has really good loot.
He does. He does indeed. Decent spray. No pump, but the tack is still good enough to make a difference. Meanwhile, Godlike Launchpad does have that campfire, but gonna use the single grenade, knock out the structure. Looking for a quick edit through, switching a spray. Can't quite find a bead on anybody just yet. Tyrax still rotating around inside as well. Basically trying to play keep away at this point. They're stuck in a 3v2 situation. Godlike getting punished from above. Gonna have to try and hold that wall. A ton of metal, which is fantastic. It does put the campfire down. But you're looking at a situation where we might have, oh my gosh, got the edit, the trap placement.
The second one down, oh my lord!
Did. Are you kidding me? On the spot.
Godlike, that was Godlike.
Such good heads-up play. Ends up getting 2 pickups there, 2 eliminations. This just went from a 3v2 to a 2v1 in their favor.
The good old dodgeball swing there. Might as well have caught the pass. Now they're trying to find it. Tyrax took some damage there. They know the opponent's nearby. Another great follow-up. Some shield tags from Godlike. Finds the 103, and it clears up Hope. They do have drift boards nearby. There is a med kit down there, so we should hopefully be able to keep Tyrax in there. But it burned through a lot of their other resources. On the other hand, you now have the loot from that trio, and we already said they were decently kitted. 3 points going over to them, and having the drift boards mean they should be safe now.
Godlike with a double trap placement play to literally swing that from being outnumbered to 3 eliminations, a launch pad, and the opportunity to escape. That is a big shift. That being said, no matter what, because the distance that Deadshot was from the other 2, they're stuck at a duo now. No chance to grab the reboot card. They're going to have to make their way into the safe zone at this point, especially because they are so far out. You see kind of the curve. They're going to have to make it past Loot Lake all the way down here to get into the safe zone.
And that's super dangerous because you're going to have a number of different teams who are funneling in towards that north side and then looking to continue to rotate out or to about face. And drift boards are loud. That's the one thing about them. While they are very mobile and they're fast, you can hear a drift board from a mile away, and if somebody does get a bead on you, these players are very good. They won't miss. You will take damage. You'll either have to hop off and then be stuck and being storm held, or just continue to find a way to break line of sight and hope they don't send you into one of those ridiculous spins that you can't recover from.
Tilted down. I know the spins you're talking about. Tilted down, still inside this next safe zone. Look at the move from circle 2 to 3 here in a minute 40. Quick little tag and some stinks inside. Sure, the loot share is going on. 142 builds. No eliminations for this trio of Pancake, Sir Panda, and Clipper. You do see all the way to the top of your screen right now a small tower built up on top of that hill above Shifty Shafts. That's basically center-ish of this next safe zone. So that team, whoever's up there, is in a good spot already. You mentioned the drift boards. You see the outline of players flying in. Adapter and Obede both on them right now. Looks like Kakarot might be the only player in that trio that does not have a drift, and he may run into Clipper and Pancake here in just a second. I would expect shots if they think it's a good timing.
Oh,
right here in a second. Wait for it. Wait, there it is. The countdown, and they start beaming. Looks like all the way to white damage at this point. The knock. Kakarot away from his trio. Is caught on the outside, quickly eliminated as Obede and the other teammate sitting on top of that campfire at this point.
Really weird that he didn't cover his back. Like, I figured he at least would have, like, tried to ramp push himself forward a little bit or, like, just toss a wall in that direction, but it seemed like he couldn't really tell where it was coming from.
You'd expect even the reaction speed from a competitive player in Fortnite right now. Like, you get a shot and you're not 100% sure where it's coming from, you're going to spin and burn the 40 materials literally just to put up the walls in every direction. No reason not to.
Worst case scenario, point your head straight down and toss a cone on your head.
Yep.
But now honestly, I hate these fights. These fights irk me more than anything because there's so many spots in Shifty where
there's a lot of little angles.
Is occupied. But now a great little hop through for Clipper, but then he gets clipped himself. Pancake trying to do everything, does pick up Adapter, and that's another trio going down. So now 3 elims for them, but 2 revives that need to happen. And there's a number of teams there, but Pancake will be playing medic and get this one taken care of.
Well done on his part. 3 eliminations now, 24 points total. We're at 27 trios. Storm Surge is coming into play now. 77 players, which means 7 more need to go down before that stops being an issue. But for this trio down here in the bottom of Shifty Shafts, they are free and clear. Over, I think, 190-ish damage above the threshold. Trio from Sam, I believe you picked this trio as your favorite. Middle East right now, Hunter, Flame, and Prime here at the skeleton of the monster.
Yeah, so they were the only trio to take a week away from Fiesel and Klops, but again, like we said, they had played with 2 different trio partners there, which kind of led me to edge more towards these guys. Flame was the player who ended up qualifying for the World Cup, unfortunately wasn't able to attend due to personal reasons. With that being said, seeing him kind of grow on the Middle East region, kind of bring this trio up, he's definitely the anchor here. He's able to pop off in so many circumstances, but the fact that they are very consistent in their discipline, and I think they perform slightly better in kind of these tight heat scenarios, and I'm just excited the fact you see them sitting on 42 points. They are towards the higher end for what we've seen in these matches, so assuming we'll see them in the grand finals tomorrow.
Good chance they make their way on through. We are still in game 4, so even after this one completes, 2 more games remain for this Middle East Heat 2 group. We shall see. At this point, yeah, here we go. Little box hold. Going to pop that edit and sit and just look around, see if there's anybody on rotation. Comms between this trio while they're sitting here on the northeast side of the next circle. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe 7-ish trios in roughly the same area here. I would say especially the 2 trios to the north right now, looking down from above, they are definitely in contention to take shots as rotations start to occur. But here we go. Hunter and Flame. Hunter dropping a couple of those grenades out. The shield bubble goes down to stop any further aggression for even just a moment. Very good call there. You don't want to lose too much structure, especially to those GL shots. You get a little bit of splash damage going. A couple shield breaks. You're going to see aggression in this trio here in a second, if it happened.
So honestly, I'll trade. He had 7 grenades before, so he threw 1 more back in the chamber there. Now he has 3 max. Not sure if there's other explodes across the team, but they pulled zone again. And you burned a bubble shield for not a ton, right? The grenade launcher would be great in a circumstance to force another team out, but that's effectively what they're trying to do there. And instead of trading it for mats and maybe a couple tags, you get other team's bubble shield out. So not too bad, but a push coming in on the other side. As that Zapper does get armed, but grenades get thrown out the other way to try and equalize the fight. Press is coming through. Hunter, however, on the backside, edits back out. Akator gets picked down. Oh my God! Rakan gets mowed down right there. A super aggressive edit coming out from Hunter. Prime, unfortunately, does go down. However, we've seen before with this team that Flame and Hunter are the backbones. Every single time in the week they won, it was Flame and Hunter putting up absolute numbers. Not to down talk Prime or anything, but they are not unfamiliar with this situation. And the fact that they pulled zone again and they're able to rotate through, I'm still confident.
Right now playing like legends, holding it down here still. 2 eliminations. Prime is out of it at this point. Going to go for that quick edit, reset the trap on the wall. Looking to see if he can find it. Can indeed. Lezix is eliminated. Seal off the top of this box that they're sitting in and rotate around. They are, looks like, safe now in here. Chance to pick up the car to potentially make a push. If there is even still, I don't think there is a reboot van in the safe zone. Maybe Shifty, depending on once we see the full map, we'll have to take a look. Shifty might be the only one, but at this point, that's too far of a rotation. There's no need to worry about that. Nightmare, Ranger, Obito down at the bottom here in the river. Kind of a precarious spot to be in. They basically reclaimed little hut that's down here along the river, but you're so exposed down at the bottom of this canyon. Anybody that's up top that wants to take shots, if you're forced to rotate, is going to have the advantage against you. 24 trails remaining, 67 players. We have 45 seconds until we move towards Circle 4.
Yeah, and the next Storm Surge threshold after the 70 will end up being the 50. So when that one pops up, don't be surprised to see it. With that being said, after the fight with the Sam Trio, they basically had an extra 1K mats laying around. So the next zone pull, if they pull zone again, they're in such a great position. But otherwise, they still have the opportunity to kind of branch out tunnel and have a slightly safer rotation. What we're really waiting on is there's not going to be a whole lot of action for the next 20 seconds or so until that zone settles and it moves. Everyone has basically staked out their territory. We've seen a few pokes back and forth, but right now, since no Storm Surge is active, some grenades coming out right now. Oh, and this is something I want to talk about right after they go through, because we've seen the rise of the Solari nade, which is a little bit like this, but here's Godlike and Tyrex, who we saw with that early 2v3 turnaround from Godlike, trying to go on the aggressive here, and they've separated this full trio, knowing they got that. Nightmare, unfortunately, gets his ramp block, but that's not his metal wall, and that's going to complete. That's a launch pad burn for nothing, and now he's been completely segmented off. They are in zone, and it down. Great 100 tech, picks up Tyrax, but then Godlike picks it up, does cover his back, will try and get the conversion through the siphon. Can Godlike clutch it up again? He wants to get back over to his teammate. Nightmare does get the conversion, and he's safe, but now what can you do as the other trio starts pouring in shots? Shield tags coming out from Ranger. Obito over there as well, but as the zone settles, if he can branch out even a little bit, he should be able to disengage. Some nades come flying in, but now it seems like they've mostly given up the fire as he's disengaged down into the water. As I say that,
this might be some of the most aggression we've seen between two trios that, honestly, with the position that they were in previously, it even surprises me that they pushed for this, because coming from the west side of the river, they didn't even have to get in there, but Tyrax gets capitalized on, goes down. Godlike, Tyrax, the trio eliminated. But I'm just saying, like, they were a duo and they just pushed on a trio and they didn't necessarily have to. It was a chance for eliminations, and it ended up, it got them one, but it paid the price. Now they're out of game 4.
So what Obito did there, it was sick, by the way, because when he put down the metal floor as the revive happened, both character models stood up at the same time, and they were force phased through.
Yep.
So you either crouch down and they own the wall and you can't go anywhere, or you're just stuck with a wall blocking basically the entirety of your screen, and you're looking up and getting headshotted, which is what ended up happening there. But the aggression coming out from a singular nade tag when you pulled zone again,
Yeah.
like, if the PG boys had just boxed up, like, they'd be set. And they'd be good, but the aggro coming out, trying to play the aggressors, did get the pick onto Nightmare, but Ranger and Obito saying, nope, not today. They'll get that one. Now going all the way back. So the Solari nades, right? When you line it up, it's 300 damage of explosive.